Okay, it's 7:01, and we're going to call the Borough of Keyport regular meeting agenda to order. Michelle, will you essentially run this?
This is a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the annual notice, which has been posted on the bulletin boards filed with the Borough Clerk and has been sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Independent, and the Star Ledger.
Thank you. Michelle, will you read the roll call?
Councilmember Demarest.
Present.
Councilmember Riley.
Here.
Councilmember Vecchio. Here. Councilmember Pepperoni.
Here.
Councilmember McNamara.
Here.
Council President Davidson.
Here.
Mayor Aranio.
Here.
And for the record, Borough Attorney Vicki Flynn.
Here.
Borough Engineer Derek Jordan.
Here.
And Police Chief Shannon Torres.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, will everybody join me in? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start with the mayor's update. I attended the Bayshore Mayor's meeting and met with the following mayors: Union Beach, Aberdeen, Matawan, Kingsburg, Homedale, Hazlitt, and Highland. This was the first meeting of the year where we collaborate together, so there's some ideas that we toss back and forth. I also attended the Bayshore Buccaneers Celebration of Champions, whereas football and cheerleading were presenting awards for their accomplishments this year. It was a wonderfully attended event with over 200 guests. Very proud of the youth of our community, as well as the parents, teachers, coaches, and volunteers that work together throughout the season with our children. Looking forward to seeing the many camps that they're bringing and working on for the spring and winter season. I officiated my first wedding. It was a beautiful ceremony with a lovely bride and groom. It was exciting for me, and also it was a nice event for everybody else. I had the pleasure of participating at the Keyport Central School Read Across America, reading to the first grade class of Miss Mantino, Pete the Cat and his groovy buttons. The children were happy, and they left with a little swag bag of school supplies. We also met with the NJDEP, myself, the Borough Administrator, Kim Humphrey, Derek Jordan, Steve Usman. We were meeting on the many notice of violations that we had, which were ongoing issues that were never taken care of previously. The violations are part of an ongoing issue to clean up the DPW yards and the water operating plant yard. Bob Hutchman, Steve Usman, Kim Humphrey has begun this process, and we're anticipating the cleanup to be by the end of March. I received a call from Councilman Pepperoni about Church Street, an emergency gas leak on March 2nd, that the contractors, they had opened a hole in the road again. I drove down to the site and contacted both engineers. Derek will speak on that a little bit later. I contacted Chief Torres. The police department was notified of the leak and sent officers to the site. There was no permit filed. However, in speaking with both engineers, they advised that for an emergency gas leak, they have 24 hours to file a permit, which, Derek, you're going to follow up. Okay. There's still an ongoing issue, though, for everybody to know on Church Street. They will need to open the road again. They have advised they're willing to repave the road from Maple to Warren, curb to curb. Derek will advise the governing body and our residents of what issue occurred and what still needs to be done. I would also like to see how we can improve on the communication with the utility companies for any future projects. When the road was open, would have been the time for the New Jersey Natural Gas to take any problems taken care of. That's all I have at this time. So the meeting's open to public comment portion. I need to know if we have a motion.
Oh.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Does anybody? Can you come to the
Oh,
side?
sorry. It's my first time.
That's okay. And you need your name and address.
My name is Lena Swishtai, and my address is 33 West Front Street. I own that building, and my husband runs a barbershop out of it, Calabrese's Barbershop. The barbershop has been in business for about 12 years. I wanted to raise concern about the development at 31 West Front Street, which is right next door to our building. The buildings are actually attached and have an adjoining wall. I brought this issue up to the planning board, but they said that it should go before the council. I wanted to request that specific language be added to the resolution that specifically addresses the safety of the building and the structural integrity, because as far as I know, that hasn't been worked out or included in any of the negotiations with the developer. And I've spoken with the developer directly, and I just don't feel completely confident that this has been addressed to my satisfaction. The building is actually adjoined to two businesses, which is mine and the one on the other side. So I wanted to raise concern because there will be ongoing business happening in the barbershop and on that street. And because the wall is shared, it just seems like it's very tricky. It's a very old building. Once they start demolition, there's also going to be, I believe, digging in the back for some underground parking, which I feel will affect something of the structural integrity. I mean, again, there's not been any major construction that I know of on that block to this level with adjoining buildings. So I just wanted this to be addressed and it to be on record that if something happens, I know that there's a municipal code that specifically addresses this, but I would like that to be added to the resolution so that it's on the record.
I just want to note for the record, so that you know, within the documents, I saw that you had raised the issue. Council President had shared me with some emails, and I want to let you know I did reach out to the developer's attorney and made sure that they are aware of your concerns and that we expect those type of issues impacting your business or your right to use your property are not interfered with by way of them doing this work. And also, there's language within the agreement that says that they're follow like all health and safety codes, and the construction officer will make sure to, when they issue permits, they will handle it. So that's in the agreement itself, okay?
Okay, great.
And I did, I wanted to make sure you knew that I did reach out to the developer's attorney. So we could have another conversation if you could give me after this meeting some
Okay.
specifics.
That would
I'm
be
happy to articulate those to him as
Thank
well.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You're welcome.
Can I ask questions on this at all? So my understanding is that there might be some outstanding documents still. I don't know. I think proof of insurance. And I don't know if there's any other outside documents that haven't been received.
All right, we'll follow up, and that hasn't been brought to my attention.
Okay. So, I mean, personally, I'm not sure. I feel like we could put more meat in the resolution that brings up some of these. I guess my thing is, why is there a developer's agreement with the borough?
Because that's the process by which, when there's an approval at a planning board, there's a developer's agreement. Which, by the way, we have like a ton of them to do that have not been done.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm presently going through and getting them done now. That puts together, and it's based on the planning board saying, look, we want to make sure when you do this development we've approved, we need an agreement. And that's what gets presented to you to approve that agreement. So that's part of the land use process.
Right, so my understanding is the planning board does their resolution, and then the developer's agreement is based on that resolution.
Yes.
So I guess my concern is that since the planning board doesn't have any authority whatsoever over building and construction issues, that might be something that the borough can put into the developer's agreement. Issues with that, like is there anything where we say, at different points that we look at for the integrity, because that's a concern? Like, are there any things that we can put in?
Well, so building and construction code integrity, there's an obligation within this agreement. The borough engineer has a responsibility to make sure codes and standards are adhered to. Our own code officials and people will be required to make sure of that. So there's a process as you go through the permitting process. That doesn't disappear because of the developer's agreement, to make sure that if anyone's doing construction in this town and anyone applies for a permit, it is being ensured that those standards are being adhered to. I didn't know this sounded like there was more specific issues related to them that haven't been. I read some of the emails. There's nothing really articulated. No one wants their place of business to be, be interfered with or fall down as a result of construction. And that's why we have our engineers here. And that's it's almost like a heightened review too when you have this development agreement. It brings in the engineers to help oversee and make sure that this process and these construction jobs are adhered to and make sure they go forward with the standards. And I mean, there's nothing more the code's already put in place, those standards and safety standards to make sure people are doing the construction in a way that is safe, is correct, and it also doesn't interfere with their neighboring properties.
So, Derek, just to kind of ease my mind, is there something that can be put in place at different points to make sure? But I know that there was a letter sent to the mayor and council a couple of years ago. So I know in that the owners expressed concern about the integrity because on the other side there was work done on the building which caused a partial collapse in their basement. So that, how do, what kind of protections do they have as this project goes?
I would defer to the attorney for what can be put in an agreement. I know I've spoken to the developer because I've heard that the concerns on this project. Of course, I've seen it. It's typical that you'd have a pre-construction meeting. That's usually a small meeting with us and the developer and the building department. But I've informed this developer that it needs to include more people than that, and people from the planning board, because of the concerns of the demolition that's going to take place, and that he needs to come with his demolition company, and they need to be able to explain how that's going to be done to the satisfaction of everybody in the room. I know it's going to be done in parts and in sections and stuff, and there is code in terms of how that's done in order to make sure that you protect the adjacent buildings. But again, it's one thing to have it written in a code. It's another thing to sit in a room with a contractor who can say, this is exactly how I'm going to do it, so that we can all feel comfortable that they know what they're doing and they're going to proceed correctly.
And then at various points do they stop and either you or somebody from construction goes and kind of checks before work progresses?
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily specific points where they stop. We watch them continuously as they go, and if they start deviating from that plan, we stop them. We have the authority from the borough to walk onto a site and stop construction if we feel they're not following the plan and doing what's right. Or even if they are, but we still see a wall start to move that's not supposed to move or something like that, we can say, time out, I know you're doing what you're supposed to, but this isn't working. And we can make things stop and secure the site and make sure everything stays safe. So, and that's why we're there to watch the work as it progresses.
So there's a set schedule as to how often you guys check in, especially with something like this, like a demolition?
Yeah, and that would be something we would set at the pre-construction meeting. We would know the contractor schedule, when they plan to start, what work they expect to do on different days, and we would adjust our schedule to make sure we're there to observe when the really critical things are being done. If they're just removing asphalt from a driveway, we don't necessarily need to see that. But once they start cutting structural walls and stuff, that's when we'll make sure we're on site.
And they also they'll be set up an escrow account so that their fees and my fees will be paid by the developer.
Correct.
So that's not on the borough, because and this is what makes it different than like a regular home construction project. This is almost like a heightened project, and then because they go to the planning board, it did go through this process, and they put in place these type of rules. There's a whole section regarding the specific information that the planning board wanted. There's stuff regarding landscaping, about debris, making sure it's cleaned up. Like if they leave it like a garbage site, we go out there and stop the work.
And they have to post a performance bond as well. So the borough has the ability to call in their bonding company and bring in another contractor to do the work correctly and make the site safe if they're failing to do so.
I have a question. Is there any language in there where if their business is derailed at any point or anything, that they're compensated for lost wages and stuff like that due to the construction?
No, they don't have a contract right in this, I would give them a contract right under the terms of this agreement, of which we don't have the power to do.
But if they have insurance, it should be covered.
Correct. Like if they have a complaint against them or a claim,
That's what I mean, does it go
Yeah.
against the
Their insurance.
people
they have
tearing
their,
down the building?
they
If
have
they're-
their insurance. Like if they said, look, I mean, I don't, they break down, they have a shared wall. Let's imagine all of a sudden someone rams through that wall,
Yeah.
knocks it down, they're sitting there running their business. They're gonna file an insurance claim and their insurance claim adjuster will go against the developer's insurance claim adjuster and work it out. It's not like, we can't create a contract right for them, as much as I think we would all love to, but you have insurance. Insurance is gonna take care of that in the practical way, how that's handled.
So in theory, once we approve this resolution, they would be able to get their permits?
They have to apply.
Yeah, yeah, they have to apply for them, and they have to
Okay.
meet all the codes.
Okay, so
Don't worry
at
that
what-
they don't erase their obligations to meet certain requirements.
Right, no, but at what point, like, so if they don't, if they have not submitted their proof of insurance and things like that yet,
Get their permits.
do
If
we,
it's a permit, there won't be issued a building permit.
would they typically have done that already before we adopt a resolution?
I don't think so, no.
Goes with your application.
Yeah. Yeah, that should all be part of their building permit application. And to have gotten this far, they would have had a sign off from the planning board engineer stating that they got all their outside agency permits and everything else that was needed to perfect their planning board resolution.
So they can't start any work without their permits, and they can't start the permits until they provide proof of insurance that they have
Right.
also.
Also
And
set
then-
up their escrow account.
Right, there.
We would get a performance bond, like there's a lot of steps that are needed before someone can do
And
it.
as part of their building permit process, they have to submit all their contractors have to submit all their licenses, their electrician, their plumber, the demo contractor has to show their qualifications, that they have the proper licenses, they're licensed to do business in the state of New Jersey. That all goes through that process as well. So again, if a contractor doesn't have the proper license, the building department is gonna reject their permit.
Okay, I saw also that T&M, I guess, had requested something with the flood manager.
They have to comply with all flood mitigation laws, and there's a whole section in the agreement that says they have to apply.
And that was,
Correct.
it was actually through the borough, so, okay, I mean.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the borough engineer has always been the floodplain manager, so previously it was CME, and now it's us, so we would have to do the certifications and that they built everything in accordance with the flood rules.
Okay. And I guess my last thought on all of it is just, we have a master plan, and I know that the borough had established historic preservation districts. I looked at the picture of this, I don't see it being historic at all, and I just throwing it out there as just a general comment, that the historic character isn't really, it's not there. So I guess for me, I get concerned with, I don't know enough about the authority of the planning board with issuing the variances for parking and things like that, so I just, I don't know, maybe it's time to work on the master plan again.
Councilman McNamara, in respect to the historic nature of it, in point number 16, paragraph 16 of the resolution from the planning board, it states that we did comment on how modern the structure was. And I don't recall, because it was a little while ago, if they were supposed to submit or will be submitting revised plans to show a little bit more of historic nature or attributes to the building that would be more in line. That is always a big conversation on the planning board of whatever we have when we have new buildings coming in. We request that the developer really takes that into consideration, although we have no maybe I'm wrong, we have no authority to demand them do that. We just have a request, and usually they oblige. So that is in
And
there.
it's in the agreement too.
It is in the agreement.
Yeah, on page 13,
Yes.
it's, the architectural plans are to ensure the building better conforms aesthetically to the downtown district, and such revised plans are subject to review and approval by the board's planner. So they're still kind of subject to our review.
One other quick question, considering we have not done a project like this that I'm aware of, where one building is connected by one single wall, is it necessary or even maybe, I don't know, an idea to have an inspection done of 31 West Front Street prior to the construction to ensure the integrity is what it is now, so it protects the developer as well as the building owner?
Do you want to make sure to do that?
Yeah, I can have my structural engineer come in and take a look at it.
I mean, it just might just to stop everybody, like, this is where we are today, this is what's existing, this isn't, and there's one more document in place to protect all parties.
Yep.
Derek, you're gonna take care of that.
Yeah.
Any other residents? Mike Lee?
Michael Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. Let me just make a quick comment, and then I want to come back to 31 West Front. I recommend in the letter 4 that you approve the garden walk without a fee. They really promote Keyport residents coming in to see the town, just really impressed. Okay, relative to this resolution for the developers agreement, Derek, it sounds to me like you haven't looked at the plans yet. And let me share a couple things with you. Not only are there common walls, but they're going to dig deeper into the ground. They're going to go below the footing of the adjacent walls. And that's a real structural problem. And it seems to me before this developers agreement is approved, your company really needs to look at common walls. They're going to excavate the hill, remove the hill completely. They're going to lower the ground level to below the base, the BE zone level.
Yeah, I've looked at the plans, and that's why I had that conversation with the developer, because that type of stuff concerned me, so, and that's why I said he needs to have, I need to have a meeting with him and his contractors to lay out exactly how they're gonna do that.
And I think it would be really astute to wait until that activity takes place to see whether there's any additional conditions that need to be put in this developers agreement. Now, in addition, the developers agreement contains it contains a whole set of conditions that we're talking about whether we have the full set of conditions. And one of those conditions is that this site is in a special flood hazard area. And I'd like to share some background with you because I'm not sure everybody on the council is really familiar with this. George, can you do the handouts?
Sure.
Do you mind handing it down? There's nothing there for the attorney if you need a copy.
You can share. I can share. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to take theirs after that.
No problem.
Page 1 and 2 note that the B zone is up to the roadway edge. And you know, you're familiar with the roadway, right at the edge of the roadway, there's a hill that goes up. And that hill transitions from an B zone to an AE zone. And the developer still hasn't provided the documentation on the flood zone boundaries. We don't know where the limit of moderate wave action is. And further, he's going to excavate the ground to below to 6 feet, which is well below the E zone level. And so he's proposing to build a multifamily unit in a VE zone, and he hasn't filed a CAFA permit. We don't know whether CAFA is going to approve this project. And so the first page shows you the fact that the site is in a VE zone, and there's an AE zone behind it. The AE zone starts at the roadway and goes up the hill. Somewhere in that elevation is a limit of moderate wave action. And structures have to be built to VE zone requirements if they're in the area between the VE zone and the limit of moderate wave action. None of that's been worked on. There's no documentation of zone boundaries. None at all. Now, in addition, the second page, 2, shows more detail. It shows that the parking lot, you can actually see the edge of the parking lot, and it's the same information. There's multiple documents in the borough's files and the neighborhood plans for both the Division Street plan and the First Street plan that document the details. This site is either in an AE zone with the hill, or when the hill is removed, what's the zone going to be? They're going to excavate the properties, and are they going to have retaining walls on both sides of the adjacent properties? None of that was defined. And then in addition, the planning board sort of punted on the issues. T&M said, well, we don't have any floodplain managers at this meeting. We can't give any input, and this is detailed on page 3 here. If you look on the flood management, they deferred. And has your company looked at this issue? Have you looked at the flood zone boundaries? Have you looked at the excavation?
For this project, at the time when it was before the planning board, CME was the floodplain manager,
Right.
and I believe they issued a letter and looked at that.
They issued a letter?
I believe so. I have to double check, but.
If you look at the details, and it's even documented here, the developer never provided the flood zone boundaries. So how could you issue?
Well, when we do it, we look up what the flood boundaries are.
The flood zone boundaries. I'd love to see that documentation. And when it came to the resolution, again, it was punted. So, again, I suggest to this council that they let this hang a little bit until you get more feedback from your engineer. The developer agreement is supposed to provide all the conditions that the developer has to meet. And we've had some experience with developers' agreements. First in Waverly, they were supposed to pave the street and mill it curb to curb. They were supposed to put in underground utilities. They were supposed to put a drainage pipe under First Street. None of that happened. We also had experience with the Mariners Village. We abandoned the end of Washington Street. Still nothing has happened. And so we really need to learn from these past experiences in terms of setting timelines for these developer agreements and setting rigorous enough penalties if they happen. And so I would have really liked to have seen this developer's agreement. I put in an OPA request for the developer's agreement. Based on all these past experiences, I'd like to comment on all the commitments that the borough is making. What commitments is the borough making on this project? I can't get an answer. I was told I can't see this document until it's approved. That's why you have public input. Make it available. Let the public comment on it. So you got the issue of structural issues that really need to be well understood before you implement this developers agreement. You got the issues with the flood zone boundaries. I'm not sure that FEMA will approve a multifamily unit in a VE zone. Matter of fact, I'm positive that they won't. And so you've got a hill right now that transitions from VE to somewhere limited moderate wave action to AE. And matter of fact, you can't even have a multifamily in the area between the VE zone and the limited moderate wave action. You can have single family, but again, that needs to be understood. And I'm not saying I'm absolutely correct, but you should take the time to review that. Why is council proceeding at this point without exposing it to the public to get input and comment, without really having the borough engineer fully understand what this developer is going to do in light of the complexity of this project? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I urge you to hold off until you get all the answers.
Thank you.
Andrew Kelsey, 29 St. Peter's Place. If you want there to be regulations on the aesthetics of the buildings, or if you want anything in the master plan to have teeth, then that's going to be what the Borough Council needs to do. From what I understand, it's the borough ordinances and state law that guides the planning board. So if you guys really want that to happen, that's going to be your role. That's all. Thank you.
Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Borough Council. On Resolution 2023-89, if you could catch me up on this, what exactly does the developer want to do along that area? If you can refresh.
But I would, I'll let you
And the civil work is he's going to demo the existing building there.
Okay.
And construct a new building with parking underneath and residents above.
Okay. Sounds like that's a good idea and everything like that. Well, it improves things along that area, but hopefully, hopefully it doesn't affect the business. Hopefully it won't affect the businesses along that area, because that area is important to the economy of the borough. And if that's going to be the case, as long as it doesn't affect the businesses, and hey, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
John Morella, 34 Broad Street. Getting back to the gas company on Church Street, under the mayor's report, who declared that emergency, the borough or the gas company?
The gas company, they had received a call to report of a leak. Somebody smelled gas. They showed up at the site. They smelled gas as well, so they declared an emergency so that they could make an emergency repair.
Here's the problem that I have. 9 months ago, there were members of this public that same thing was done. There was a smell of gas. So what changed in those 9 months? Nothing. The only thing that changed was the gas company dragged their feet, didn't want to do the right process. Anybody can declare an emergency, especially a utility company, to get what they want. The borough should honestly be on site, and the emergency should be before we open a street, especially a street that's been paved less than a year ago. We hear that all the time. I don't care if they pave curb to curb or the whole street over again. The damage is done. And if they would have done their job in the beginning of that project, we wouldn't be here today talking about it. And we have a lot of road projects coming up. So I would suggest that during these projects, when they're approved and a resolution's done and the municipality moves forward, that a meeting take place. And I'm not pointing the finger at you, I know you're brand new, but maybe a little guidance. A meeting takes place. Listen, do your due diligence. Go out there, see if there's leaks, see if there's lead in the pipes. Do what you gotta do, report back to the council before a shovel goes in the ground. And file your permits with the borough like everybody else does. Because a homeowner would never get away with that. A business would never get away with that. But actually the people that are doing the work, they got away with it, and they're still getting away with it. That's my comment on that. We talked a little bit about the developers agreement. Just so everyone's clear, I know we heard the word historic and modern. There's only one section of town that's registered right now with the state of New Jersey as being a historic, dedicated preservation area. It goes from Church Street to Broad Street on East Front Street. And the planning board just approved a big project where the VNA is on East Front Street. And if you think that project's historic, you better take a good look at it again. So what I'm saying is that yes, we are a historic town, but if you're gonna move in that direction, you better look at the ordinances that were passed 25 years ago, because they're on the books. The last thing I have is under the communication number 8, Recreation Committee. I know it may be too late this year, but there's 7 municipalities around us that touch Keyport. 7 that have a summer rec program this year, including our Keyport Yacht Club that has, for the 3rd year in a row, a sailboat teaching, class. So, listen, we can blame it on COVID. COVID, in my eye, was a deterrent. All right, now, why are other towns, Madeline's doing it, Aberdeen's doing it, Hazlitt's doing it, Union Beach is doing it, they're all having summer rec programs with directors that are doing recreation for those children. Because I agree with Mr. Demarest when he said last week or 2 weeks ago, I agree with him 100%. Yes, there's recreation for younger children, if that's, what you call recreation, going to a ball game. But when I was a kid, Keyport had a great summer rec program. Plus it employed kids at the school. Kids were counselors, the summer rec had a director, and it was basically for 8 weeks. And then when 8 weeks were over, kids got involved in the Pop Warner program and they moved on. There was no downtime for these children. And you know what? We better think about that in the future. I know it might be a little late this year, but going forward next year, it's a must. It really is. And the last question, Mayor, is the number 9, the mosquito tire pickup. How are we getting that message out to the public?
We're gonna have to post it, we're gonna have to put it on our borough website. We should actually send it out to everybody if we can, just so that they have it.
Yeah, because that's
important.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Carew, 64 Broadway. When I come up, I'm a little conflicted because I looked at Resolution 90, and it authorizes the mosquito control operation to spray over the Keyport Borough. And I know this comes up about this time every year, and we're going to give them authorization that we can't deny, because we're not allowed to. Whether we deny it, it still goes through. I've seen on Saturday mornings when the air is nice and calm, the helicopter comes over and sprays the swamp. I guess it's the Chingarora swamp, and then they go over to the other side. And in other years, when they weren't able to do this, the spraying, my wife and I would sit on the porch drinking coffee and see literally thousands of mosquitoes flying over the top of our house, going from one swamp to the other. And I think we have mosquito control in that for the swamp mosquitoes. Then I look at the conflict, which is the tire pickup. To me, that is the answer, because everybody that's getting annoyed by mosquitoes is probably because the mosquitoes stay in a very close range from where they're born. And I don't really go to the swamp that often, but I know the mosquitoes are being eaten by dragonflies. And in the larval stage, that's primarily their only food. So when they spray, they're killing the mosquitoes, but they're also killing the dragonflies. Doesn't make any sense to me. So it's just a conflict that goes, and every year I think about it, and then the answer that I like is that the tire cleanup, because that's where the main problem is. So if we were to spend Monmouth County aerial money on making sure people are, keeping their properties in proper order, and it's hard because the little tiger mosquito can raise a family in a little soda cap. So it's almost impossible. But when you have dragonflies flying around, and if you sit on your front porch around 8 o'clock, you'll see them. They're territorial. They go around cleaning out the whole area. So I'm not necessarily a nature boy, but it just makes common sense. Let nature do its job and help it instead of fighting it. And we're spending money destroying dragonflies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion to close to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Mayor, I would request that we table developers
That's what I was
agreement.
just gonna ask. Okay, so do we have, consent to table the developers agreement? Motion?
Motion to table the developers agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from the council?
Yes, Mayor. A question on Resolution 2023-91. Just out of curiosity, I know we did the camps last year, and one of the conditions that we added is that they take the garbage in and take the garbage out with them. Does anybody know if we had any issues coming out of that camp, any problems, anything else that we need to add into that language for the camp to make sure that the park is protected, borough?
Michelle, did you get any complaints?
I did not.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Anybody else on the desk? Okay, we have a motion to approve R 2023-87 through R 2023-91 and tabling R 2023-89.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we have a public hearing adoption. Oh, sorry, roll call.
Councilmember Demarest.
Yes.
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a public hearing, adoption of Keyport bid, KBBC 2023 budget. Michelle, will you read the budget by title?
This is the Keyport bid in KBBC 2023 budget.
Do we have a motion to open to the public for comments or questions on the Keyport bid?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, does anybody have any questions, comments? Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. The KBBC budget, is there a representative here from the KBBC tonight to explain this, more or less summarize this budget?
I don't think there is, but we are the liaison.
Yes, we do have
Oh,
members
we
of
do?
KBBC
Oh,
here.
okay.
If we
Melissa, I
wanted
didn't
to.
see you.
Yeah, it would be nice if she could come up and explain it for us and stuff.
Okay, you may have to sit so she can.
Thank you.
Do you have a secret question on the budget?
Say again?
Did you have a specific question on the budget?
No, I'm just saying. the budget.
cataract surgery.
But
I didn't want to miss the
She
meeting.
said she couldn't see you either.
This is a little rough.
I'm just saying the budget in general,
Yeah.
how you propose to
Melissa, do you wanna state your
spend
name?
the taxpayers' dollars.
Well, it's the business owner's dollars.
Okay.
Melissa O'Connell, 7981 Broad Street, owner of Keyport Funhouse and vice president of KBBC. Yeah, just so, the bid is actually the business owners, the property owners.
Okay.
The tax comes from, we're overtaxed, they're not overtaxed, but we have an additional tax
Wow.
put onto our properties, and that's what pays for the bid. And we
Okay.
start out every year with about 171,000. I'm gonna try. We start out with 171,500 every year. We break it down between events, capital improvements,
Right.
marketing and media, and administration. So, did you get a copy of the?
No, I didn't. I'm just saying, play it to the public in general. That's
Yeah,
just me.
so
Thank you.
that's basically it. So we break down our proposal into those budgets. I have a comparison from last year to this year. We do have a rollover. That's why we've had a little bit more money because of the pandemic when we were closed. We rolled over that year because we didn't have any events.
Okay.
So, yeah, this last year and this year we're planning on spending between 85 and 90,000 on events. The marketing and stuff is about 40,000. Visual improvements, we have 20,000 earmarked for that, so it's like the Christmas tree and all the decorations. And then we also have a rollover of 100,000 from last year. And what's the last one? Oh, the lawyers, the big ones, all that kind of stuff, all the administration. And that's about it.
I think, Melissa, what many residents don't realize, like the events and everything that's done by the KBBC, many people think that it's just the borough. They don't realize that there's the KBBC that actually does it, which is probably why Elmer was asking the question.
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, that's
so
where all the
that
money
I'm
comes
just
from.
asking, I'm just asking to explain it to the public in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so our main purpose is to build up the business district. So there's 220 properties that pay into it from the highway,
we all do a
Main
terrific
Street.
job, don't get me wrong.
We're trying. Yeah, but that's why we try to use the money only on things that build the business community, because it's business dollars, like it's not coming from the residents.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Thank you,
Good.
Melissa. Is there any other questions, Jack?
Jack Straub, 235 Main Street. I'm no longer a business owner. We sold our business, and I'm no longer on KBBC, but I still stay involved as much as I can. And Elmer, I think to answer your question again, like Melissa said, is it's a pass-through.
Right.
It's not a tax on Keyport taxpayers.
Oh, no,
It's the
I
businesses.
wasn't saying that. I'm just saying to explain.
Yeah,
it
no,
in general
absolutely,
for the public.
absolutely, and you've got the documentation. The one thing I would mention, doesn't affect the budget specifically, but it's been hanging around for a couple of years, it still hasn't been resolved. 2 years ago, well, it's a year and a half ago, but in 2021, the former mayor, and a number of people objected, myself included, as a member of KBBC, she made a motion for KBBC to pay for the paving of the municipal parking lot, which a lot of people didn't think was right, but she forced it through. And then they kind of pulled a fast one because they said, well, you do the paving, we'll do the sealing, and that never happened. And lots of disaster. KBBC lost $25,000. So either the borough should reimburse KBBC that $25,000 or come to some kind of conclusion with the parking lot because it's a disaster and KBBC got taken advantage of because the mayor never should have even been allowed to make that motion, but she did. And they use KBBC money for the parking lot. So that's got to be cleaned up. It doesn't affect this budget. I'm just saying as long as we're talking about the budget, please get to that because it's coming up on 2 years now.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution 2023-92?
I just have a quick statement. It's not objection to the budget in any way, shape, or form. It's just, there's a lot of great things that the KBBC does. The events are great, brings a lot of people to town. The one thing that I think the KBBC might want to consider in the future is a little bit more focus on the actual business improvement part of the bid. It is a business improvement district. So where is the economic development portion of this? Where is the education to some of our businesses to help them do their own marketing to get out there. Maybe that's done in the shareholder meetings. I don't know. I'm not a business owner in this town, so I just want, it's not on the budget. I just want to make a point to say perhaps it's something that can be considered and thought about at the KVBC meetings for a little bit more economic development, education to some of our businesses, especially the new ones and the smaller mom and pop shops. That was all I wanted to say.
So do we have a motion to approve resolution 2023-92?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call, actually. Yes. Roll call.
Councilmember Demarest.
Yes.
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have communications by consent for approval, 1 through 9, 1 through 8, and 9 to receive and file. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I just have I'm sorry to interrupt again, a couple of questions. On communication number 3, the letter from the fire department for Fireman's Park on Saturday the 20th, it says they need it from 10 p.m. the night before, but I didn't see anything that says when they can reopen. Does that need to be stated in the letter, or we can just, does somebody know that?
I can find out. Michelle, did we have it like that last year, when they reopened?
I don't think that they told us to, no, but I can find out.
And then we could just, okay.
Yes.
We don't need to, I just thought we should have that anyway. And then, the recreation, where was that?
Number 8.
Thank you, it's on the other page, thank you, from the board's the 5K, do we have to change the route this year? Is the construction on the bridge done, or are we keeping the route the same as last year? It's going to be a different route this year?
Well, it changed last year because of...
It changed last year because of the bridge. Is the bridge going to be open by then?
Nope. No.
So we're still have, it's a different route, still not utilizing the bridge?
We're actually recertifying the route, so it's gonna change a little bit, and I think that we're working on that.
Okay, thank
Can we
you.
provide anything yet? No.
We haven't had a meeting to talk about it.
But we will work with you.
Great. Any others?
And then
I think
For number 4. It says for the garden walk, the use of Borough Hall. So they have it going to 10:45, but it says for the bathroom all day. I think we should change that to 11 o'clock. So if you're using Earl Hall, then when they're done,
Are they gonna have someone in here to monitor themselves if there's any issues with the bathroom or anything, or was the chief brought in at all? Did they, for the bathroom? I just mean because you guys share the building, so you're gonna have people in and out.
We don't have any monitoring inside the bathrooms, we just have the monitors in the hall, but we won't be able to watch who's in and out all
actually,
day.
you guys anyway, that would be.
Like, we won't be able to replace toilet paper, paper towels, stuff like that.
But also somebody would have to stay on premise while they're here.
Have they requested bathroom permits? I don't remember.
I believe they requested it last year, Kathleen.
Yeah, I think,
But we didn't.
I don't think it was requested last year, and I think that was why they requested it, because they put it on their map, but I don't think it had been requested, and there was a little bit of confusion, and I think through the years, it's varied.
Yes.
I think a lot of years, it's just when the speakers were done, that the building closed. So this is making the request to keep it open past that. And I guess that's the question, right? Like, if there's nobody here, and we leave the building open, what that looks like.
Right, there's nobody here to monitor anything.
Are you guys asking my opinion on,
No.
should we use the big?
No.
Okay.
What they're saying is they'd like to keep the council chambers and the bathrooms open up till 11 o'clock, am I correct?
Yes.
And then after 11 o'clock, when council chambers are done, then,
Close the building.
close the building.
Yeah, I think that's
I think that's what Councilman Berman is indicating.
On the same application, and this is, past 2 years, I've been asking the same question and bringing up the same point about the waiver fees. So I know that this application was submitted prior to the ordinance change. I just want to know the rest of the governing body's thoughts on the waiver fees for this particular application and for now.
We've got the Borough Hall, $23.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the gazebo, which is, it's $346 for. Now you've got the gazebo is at the waterfront, the pavilion, and that's $100. So it's $123 for the whole.
Each day.
For each day, yeah.
Which is combined cheaper than under the new
Right.
discount.
Exactly, so, I mean, they got in prior to the ordinance change, which is great news, but are we still going to approve the waiver of fees?
Now, they also do a lot in the town for the improvement of the town to make it healthier.
I understand that, and
So
so all of our
this is-
volunteer groups do.
Correct. You know, I'm just bringing that up to everybody.
They would be grandfathered in for last year if we kept it the same.
They would be, yeah, so
Price-wise?
if they were paying the fees, they'd be paying the fees from last year.
What's the pleasure of the governing body on that? Yes.
I just have one question. The route for the garden walk, I did see that they're requesting crossing guards at key locations. Can we talk about can we have a route and can we have what they're requesting exactly as far as key locations, crossing guards were requested, or?
Do they not
It was
provide-
very vague.
I would imagine they're not going to have a route yet because they don't know which properties are on. Yeah.
Because that's going to be hard it's hard to get those. I have to get those ahead of time.
Yeah.
Crossing guards at school season, so I just want to request that we get a route
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
I
Keep
think
in mind
they
that's a
usually have
request.
that at least a month ahead of time, if not more.
The problem is, it's whoever joins up of the whole town. So I don't even know.
Oh,
how
we
you-
know, we do it, we just want it,
Kinda like the yard sale.
we want to be able to schedule it correctly. So we're trying to get that route as soon as possible, keeping in mind that we have those crossing guards are paid personnel.
What do you think about that as well? How many do you usually have for that town? Like average?
It would depend on the route. I don't remember offhand last year, we have it all planned out.
Like we should have 4 or 5, you think? I mean, just off the top of your head, you think?
I mean, off the top of my head,
I think we should look.
I'd rather be sure of the route.
I mean,
That's your pleasure.
Depends on road jobs or what's going on, the route that they're gonna walk and how many people. I know last year there was a larger crowd than usual. It was really nice. It was a great,
how many do we have on for school every day?
there's 11.
Oh, wow.
It's very hard to meet. When they call out, we
Yeah.
want the officers.
So we could end up having 11 cars.
No, you
No,
won't end up.
if it's spread all over town?
It depends. Again, I have to look at the route. I don't like to answer questions off the
But like
cuff
max,
because
I mean, in
there's
reality, we
plenty of
could
events.
have that many if it's, right?
You could. SLEOs or whatever, I don't know, I'd have to
Yeah.
really assess the event, we go over it, we have a whole team that looks over it and sees the key crossings and how many people were here last year, how many places filled up, the maximum capacities, we kind of do an overview of, to see.
And it's really participation by the town. If you don't get a lot of houses, you probably won't get a lot of people.
It usually does draw
Yeah.
a big crowd.
It does, it really does.
It does.
Last year was a big.
Yeah, it was probably,
Larger than usual.
so what is the pleasure of the board?
We just want the route as soon as
I think because of the crossing guard situation, maybe just do it as last year.
Did we waive the fees last year? I don't think we did.
I don't think we did either. I think
And
that
I
was-
think because of the precedent we're trying to set, number one, we're always saying the DPW and the police are the upkeep of everything. We're trying to get ahead of everything and stay on top of it. And if we make the exception to waive the fees, not saying that the organizations don't do anything for the town, they do a lot for the town and we're grateful for them, but I think we need to consider that with all these events and the requests that come in for the waivers, because they're going to keep coming in. So my request is that we, receive and file with the exception of we are not going to waive the fees.
And change the time for the bathroom.
And change the time for the bathroom.
So do we have a motion to approve 1 through 8, 9 receive and file, and number 4 to receive and file, change the time, not waive the fee, and what else?
Just the bathroom.
And the bathrooms. Okay. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Does that have to be a roll call?
Yes, roll call, yes. Roll call, Michelle?
Councilmember Delarose.
Yes.
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Councilmember Davidson.
Yes.
Then we have the minutes for approval from February 7th council meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
I abstain.
Okay. And then we have new business DPW appointment. Is there any questions on this? Is there a comment? Pulling this?
If this is regarding personnel, I think we should pull this and have a conversation.
Crossed out. All in favor on that one? Any Deus updates?
I'm just gonna talk about the Church Street gas leak. So Thursday, March 2nd, we're notified that the gas company received a call with regards to an odor of gas and responded and began opening the street to fix the leak. I was notified, I went out to the site. When I got there, the hole had already been opened and the patch had started. You could still smell a little bit of gas. Talked to the gas company, informed them that they needed to follow up with the road opening permit since they were proceeding as an emergency, and that we'd also need to talk about the correct repair to that hole because it was a recently paved street. So we want curb to curb replacement, as well as talk to them about anything else they want to fix now and come back and do it once. So hope to have that result here in the next couple of weeks.
Derek, I have a question. They only want to pave the 2 streets, correct? Not the entire road.
The 2 blocks, correct.
And in your past experience, if you have a 5-year moratorium not to open the road, is that normal?
Again, I've requested to see their plans to see what they're doing, but it should go at least the full length of a block to an intersection. If they're not going to open the road across the intersection, I don't see why we'd have to make them mill and overlay that. But again, I want to see their plans and talk to them in detail to make sure that they're not doing 2 blocks now to have to do 2 blocks later. If the gas line in that entire street needs to be done, we should do it in one shot. If it's only those 2 blocks for whatever reason, then we'll deal with that at that time. But I want to see what they really need to do.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Derek on that from the desk? We're going to open the meeting to the public. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening. So,
You
my name
name-
is Tom Galanti.
Name.
I am 31 West Front Street here with my 2 partners. I don't know if you guys understand or know, the township has condemned the building, and it is an imminent hazard. By waiting to do the developer's agreement, it's gonna be a problem.
So we were preparing, and I don't know if you knew that, but we were supposed to set up a meeting to go over everything. So it's a problem. We have to get this thing down quickly. By waiting another month, our engineers and our architects have been in there and sent the reports to the town. The construction official posted the building, sent everything in. So it's going to be a major problem for everybody around it. So by delaying it, it's only going to be harmful to everybody around it. So I really hope you reconsider so we can get this going. Everything that was mentioned tonight, everything was complied with. We did everything we're supposed to from every board. So I don't know what more to say. But if you can reconsider it so we can get started to beautify the town, that's what we want to do. Thank you.
Any other questions, John?
John Morella, 34 Broad Street. Just a couple of concerns. The one that I really am concerned about is I objected to the fees being increased to support volunteer organizations last year to be raised. I totally oppose even having a fee, and I'll tell you why. Those volunteer groups, they're the backbone of this municipality. They get things done. The fire department, the first aid, they're going to hold a picnic or they're going to have a thing on borough property or facility. We're charging our volunteers that help build this community into what it is. I mean, it doesn't make no sense. It really doesn't. I will bet you right now, there's not one council person on that council can tell me the revenue that was raised last year in the budget from charging people a fee. You know why? Because I looked through the budget from head to toe and can't find it. So, I mean, how much are you talking about? Between the school and the borough, we have a $20 million budget. If that revenue generated by charging volunteers to hold meetings on borough property or facilities, if it raised $1,000, I'd be shocked. And if that's what it comes down to, that's how we reward our volunteers. Other towns are giving their fire departments LoSAP programs. When they leave, they got something to be rewarded about. You can't, I mean, they're volunteers. They're groups that are holding together just barely. And you know who they're coming after to keep them groups holding together? Our businesses in town. So if the businesses in town aren't going to give them a contribution, you know, how are they going to keep going? And then, you know, I mean, it's totally ridiculous to charge groups that they live here. They pay taxes here.
We own it.
They run calls at night. They bring people to the hospital. They give back to the community. And what are we doing for them? Reconsider that. Reconsider that ordinance. That ordinance was put together to be spiteful. And you all know it. Not everybody was here, but I can tell you why that ordinance was raised. And I objected then and I object now. I'm telling you, that's not how you reward the people that worked for you. Not at all. My second concern is the Main Street parking lot. As someone reported tonight about the parking lot behind Old Glory, the municipal parking lot. Well, the Main Street parking lot was paved and it was never striped. So people are parking all over. We have to find out why that wasn't completed. I mean, you can blame it on the weather, but we had some beautiful days. It doesn't take a month. Please, somebody check into that. My other thing is, we talked about Mariners Village down there at the end of Washington Street or whatever, Clay Perlman's project. No disrespect, but nothing's being done, nothing's being moved. And the people in that area have to live now with those houses that were knocked down. I wish they would have left them up, because all it is now on Northwest First Street is a dumping ground. And anybody that lives in the area will tell you it's a dumping ground. Believe me. And that's not what we're here for. It should be, code enforcement should go out and reinforce what the resolution said. The resolution said they keep those properties clean. They're not clean. My last question is, I've heard scuttlebutt about the roof, but there was never nothing brought out publicly on the Borough Hall. They found out what's wrong with the roof?
They're done that, I know that.
Yeah, I haven't seen the final report yet. We had, a company came out and did a spray test on the building. I believe they wrapped that up last week. They came out and did it, so.
This week.
This week they were out, so unfortunately we got some rain and you can't do a spray test in the rain. Once we get that final report, we'll be able to analyze it and see where they think the water's actually coming in.
Derek,
It's a bad problem. I've been over there and seen it.
and I'll tell you what I've told 4 previous engineers. I was here when we built this. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a lawyer, but I will tell you what happened. The day they brought the air conditioning unit, the crane, it dropped. And I told them then there'd be a problem. The membrane of the roof is a flat roof. It's 7 layers. It punctured the flat roof. It was never cut out. It was just left, and it was a mistake. We had a clerk of the works there. We had engineers. We had architects. I'm telling you, that could be the problem. And I've said it before. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else from the public? Mike?
Michael Lane. Just a couple of comments on 31 West Front. It's interesting, the building has been vacated completely. Probability is going to fall down in the next month. It's been there for, what, almost 100 years? It's an empty building. There's time to work the problem. Second is that I live on the waterfront. I've had the experience of the ground that the building sits on. The natural resource inventory points out very well that this is sandy soil, and it washes away very easily. And so we're talking about digging a foundation right next to an existing shared wall below the height of the foundation of the shared wall. So that's, you know, I took a lot of structural engineering classes, and I'd love to sit in and hear how this is going to be dealt with. And I invite you to invite me. So the other is that the applicant said that we've conformed with everything. The borough ordinance on site plan and subdivision requires that the developer in his site plan for the building delineate the flood boundaries. And that hasn't been done.
It has been done. That's why we're here.
Mr. Glenn, yeah.
So you're saying that's available in Borough Hall now?
Mike, he finished what you're saying, and if he would like to come back up, he...
The other is that the CAFRA application hasn't been made, the CAFRA permit has not been granted. And this is the CAFRA requires that you notify all neighbors within 200 feet. I've checked with neighbors within 200 feet. They have not been noticed. I have put an open request to Borough Hall for a copy of the CAFRA permit. No response. It doesn't exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other residents?
We have complied with everything. The camera permit, everything was answered by our engineers. Everything is, I guess not your office, but upstairs.
It's my understanding TNM was signed off on the plan for resolution compliance, which means that they would have met all the conditions in the resolution, including outside agency permits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack?
Jack Straub, 235 Main Street. Again, I want to thank you for putting more information into the agenda when it's put online. I understand you can't put everything, but I noticed this morning, or over the weekend when I looked at it, I would ask that when there's a public hearing, like tonight there was a public hearing on the KBBC budget, the budget wasn't one of the documents that was put in the agenda. So I notified Michelle, she was nice enough today to print it out, so anybody that came in, when they picked up the agenda, they could get a hard copy of it. But when there is a public hearing, I would think that the supporting documents should be part of the agenda when that's put up on Friday. Great, thanks.
Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. For what John said earlier, a few minutes ago, about the volunteers in our borough, why are we charging them for it? I agree with John. We should not charge them. They should not have to pay anything for, these people volunteer in our beautiful borough here. They're the backbone of our beautiful borough. And they should not have to pay for what they do and all that stuff, everything like that. They should not. We shouldn't be charging them, period. Like I said, they're the backbone of our beautiful borough here, and they do a great job. And second thing is, I know I plugged this a few times before our borough council, and I'm going to plug it again tonight. It's We Care Adult Care. Highway 35 in Red Bank, New Jersey. I go there 3 times a week. I help them out, and they help me out too. And matter of fact, a recommendation, my VA doctor, to go there and everything like that. They have an outstanding staff at We Care. Their staff is outstanding, but they need help. They need volunteers. And I brought it up with one of the staff members, Kellyanne Desmond there, and with Keyport High School possibly volunteering there in the springtime and stuff like that. And she said she'd consider it. But anyway, if you all know any Keyport residents who need care, who need elder care and stuff like that, especially for dementia and all that, We Care Adult Care is terrific. Like I said, their staff is outstanding, and I would highly recommend them to anyone and any Keyport Borough resident. And Madam Mayor, I've brought this up to you before. Hopefully we'll have a Veterans Committee meeting soon. The American Legion. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay, do we have a motion to close?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.